I went to the gay bar to unwind, only to unexpectedly run into my cold, ascetic boss. The air was thick with alcohol and heat. One moment we were exchanging glances, and the next, we kissed. It was impulsive, heated, and wordless. Neither of us brought up who we were. There was an unspoken agreement to let the night stay where it belonged, in shadows and silence. I thought we'd move on. Pretend it never happened. But the very next day, at work, we crossed paths again. He stepped in front of me, calm and composed as ever, and said coolly, "Lance, I liked those low-rise pants you wore last night." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Welcome to He History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. Damn it. Never drinking again. I leaned against the doorframe, eyes shut, trying to gather myself. My cursed internal clock had woken me up right on time, as if to remind me I had to go to work. Every muscle in my body ached, and my head pounded like a ticking time bomb. All for that damn $500 perfect attendance bonus. I sighed and forced myself upright, peeled off the silver-threaded fishnet top and tossed it aside without a second thought. Stumbled straight into the bathroom. Time to scrub the gel out of my hair and the stench of alcohol off my skin. Staring blankly into the mirror, I brushed my teeth like a machine. That's when I noticed the split on my lower lip. I rolled my eyes, irritated. Asshole. Was that kiss really necessary? After 3 days of non-stop overtime, I'd finally opened my phone, only to find that the college guy I'd been supporting for over 2 years on my meager salary had vanished. Right after saying he wanted to show me a magic trick. Poof, gone without a trace. Staring at the red exclamation mark on the screen, I laughed out loud. For a while. Then the laughter faded little by little. That night, I took the last bus home. The moment I stepped through the door, I turned around, cleaned myself up, hailed a cab, and headed straight for the gay bar. The neon lights painted shifting colors across my face. Flaming cocktails burned their way down my throat. The pounding bass synced with my heartbeat, each thump slamming into my skull. Someone grabbed me and pulled me into the dance floor. The dizziness from the alcohol and the rush of adrenaline temporarily numbed the ache inside. Someone peeled off my heavy leather jacket with obvious intentions. Now exposed, my crocheted black fishnet shirt, woven in wild, uneven lines, left little to the imagination. I let my body move with the music, caught in the rhythm. The silver chain hanging low on my hips jingled with every sway. A whistle caught my attention. I looked toward the sound. Not my type. But the guy raised a brow and started walking over anyway. I smiled politely. "Sorry, you're ugly." Truthfully? He was decent looking. But with men, if you don't shut them down thoroughly, they never take the hint. Sure enough, he was full of confidence. Ugly? You won't know till you try. I rolled my eyes dramatically. I like the lights on. Can't try if I can't stand the view. He grinned. Then what level of hotness makes the cut? I let out a soft laugh, just as my eyes landed on a man seated in a booth not far away. He'd been watching me for a while. Even when our gazes locked, he didn't look away. I tilted my head, smiling. That's the level. The handsome stranger rose to his feet. The other guy, thankfully, took the hint and backed off. I walked toward him and tipped up on my toes. I had to admit, Theobald Capaldi kissed like a god. A kiss that devoured every breath from my lungs. Hot, insistent, relentless. When I pulled back, gasping, Theobald didn't even pause, just leaned in again, mouth hunting mine like a dog that had gotten a taste for blood. It was so damn good. I licked my lips afterward, still craving it. But in the end, reason won out, and reason looked a lot like a $500 perfect attendance bonus. I put back on my 3-piece work suit, slicked my hair down into something presentable. The black-rimmed glasses were perfect for hiding the small tear-shaped mole at the corner of my eye. Pale lips, a zit forming near my jawline. Perfect, plain, honest, utterly forgettable. Time for work. On my way to catch the bus, I even grabbed an iced Americano to bring down the swelling. 9:30 a.m. Clocked in successfully. I glanced at the day's schedule and reported in my usual flat, formal tone. Mr. Capaldi, you have a sit-in meeting with the product department at 10:30. Lunch is with Mr. Smith from the XX group. In the afternoon. I paused mid-sentence, noticing the man behind the rosewood desk had his eyes fixed on me. Is something wrong? I asked. Say yes and I'll quit right now, I thought to myself. Theobald Capaldi kept staring at me, maybe at the black-rimmed glasses on my face, or the slightly outdated suit jacket that could easily be mistaken for a sales associate's. After a brief silence, he lowered his gaze. No, he said coolly. Repeat the schedule again. Of course. That's how it should be. Unspoken. Unacknowledged. Left in the dark. Who takes drunken moments seriously anyway? I wasn't planning on giving up this well-paying job. And I was pretty sure he didn't want word of him being gay spreading through all 300 of the company's chat groups before I even turned in my resignation. Having muttered all that in my head, I started over, covering the meeting, the lunch, the signatures, and all the miscellaneous work. By mid-morning, my tasks were done. Theobald went off to another meeting, one I didn't need to attend. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the exhaustion dragging down my eyelids, then wandered into the break room. I brewed myself a coffee, killing a bit of time, and calmly posted the dirtbag college guy, who ghosted me after 2 years of support, on his school's anonymous gossip wall. Aunt Maria squeezed into the room. Well, Secretary Lance. What a coincidence. I gave her a polite smile. Morning, Aunt Maria. Small world. She eyed me up and down, clicking her tongue. Didn't sleep well, huh? Those dark circles are something. I was just about to nod. I mean, of course I didn't sleep well. I passed out standing against my front door like a corpse. Then her expression changed. She gasped and covered her mouth. Your mouth, Lance? I blinked. Instinctively ran my tongue along my lips. A faint sting reminded me of that kiss from the night before. My heart gave a strange little flutter. Aunt Maria nudged me playfully with her elbow. Well, someone clearly had a good night. I froze. I'd only ever hidden my orientation at work. I never really went out of my way to hide when I was seeing someone. In fact, having a partner could keep certain people at bay. So I nodded and gave a sheepish smile. He's kinda strict at home. We were chatting with our backs to the door, so neither of us noticed when Theobald Capaldi returned from his meeting. He stood just inside the doorway, lips curled into a smirk. Aunt Maria teased, So you're the type who gets bossed around at home, huh? I didn't miss a beat. Yeah, she's a handful. Gotta spoil her or she throws tantrums. The smirk on Theobald's lips fell instantly. He furrowed his brows and called my name. Lance. His sudden voice startled both me and Aunt Maria. She bolted like a scared cat. I swore under my breath. Then instantly put on my secretary face. Mr. Capaldi? Would you like some coffee? I knew he didn't drink that instant stuff. I was just trying to change the subject. Who knows how much he overheard? But Theobald Capaldi ignored the question entirely. He looked straight at me and dropped a bomb. Lance Martindale, he said, I liked those low-rise pants you wore last night. What the actual hell? I sucked in a sharp breath and bolted out of the break room. God, had Aunt Maria already walked away? She heard that? She loved gossip more than life itself. In under 3 minutes, the entire company would know about my low-rise pants. Thankfully, she was gone. She'd clearly fled from Theobald like he was some kind of corporate plague. The hallway outside the break room was empty. Only then did my wildly pounding heart finally return to my chest. That was close. My hard-earned image as the well-mannered, straight secretary had almost crumbled on the spot. I inhaled deeply and looked back at him. Tried to pull off a professional smile. Mr. Capaldi, what exactly do you mean? Exactly what I said, he replied, calm as if commenting on the weather. Right. So you like my pants? And you're just announcing that? Like it's normal? I didn't get it. At all. And I was fairly certain Theobald Capaldi was being deliberately difficult. Still, I was a professional. If I didn't understand something, I simply didn't respond to it. I smiled politely. All right, Mr. Capaldi. I'll return to my post now. Wait. Do you have another instruction, Mr. Capaldi? He frowned slightly, then said slowly, I'm not a little girl. How many jump scares was this man planning to give me today? With no better option, I gave an exhausted explanation. Right? I said that just to avoid trouble. If I'd told Aunt Maria I was single and lived alone, it'd be hard to explain the injury. Theobald pressed his lips together. He looked genuinely confused, as if wondering why there was anything that needed explaining in the first place. I pretended I didn't notice his look, and slipped away as fast as I could. But Theobald Capaldi's reaction had been different from what I expected. Now I was nervous. I squirmed through the rest of the workday, feeling like I was sitting on needles. The moment the clock hit 6:30, I shot to my feet. Move it, let's move. But I didn't make it far. The phone on my desk rang. I wanted to die. His voice crackled through the line. Lance Martindale. My office. I sighed long and deep, dragged my feet in. Mr. Capaldi. He didn't even look up, just kept signing documents. You said you live alone? Then want to come to my place? Excuse me? That didn't sound right. Wait, was it because of last night? Was he that into the kiss? Was this him trying to take things further? Not that I mind. I glanced at his custom-tailored suit. The sharp cuts framed every inch of his solid build. The memory of his arm clamped around my waist, pulling me against him, rushed back vividly. He was definitely packing more than just a six-figure salary. My throat went dry. Truth be told, part of why I'd lasted this long as his secretary, aside from the easy work and great pay, was because he was so my type. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone looking to kiss him even in a drunken haze. I thought for a moment. Sure. But I have one condition. We keep things professional at work. Still strictly boss and secretary. His pen stopped mid-signature. He looked up at me, visibly dissatisfied. And was that a hint of hurt? You don't want to go public? Am I that shameful to be seen with? Seriously? Being a boss's hookup buddy, is that supposed to be a badge of honor now? Seeing I wasn't budging, he sighed quietly. Fine. But don't make me wait too long. A little eager, aren't we? Theobald Capaldi didn't want to wait. So that night I went home with him. The second we stepped inside, he shoved me against the door and kissed me hard. But just as my hand reached for his waistband, he stopped me. Isn't this too fast? He asked. To my surprise, there was a flicker of shyness in his tone. But more than that, expectation. I scoffed silently to myself. Oh, come on. Inviting me over wasn't for a book club meeting. I curled my lips and kissed him again. Less talking, or I'm leaving and you can wait all you want. His eyes darkened. He grabbed the back of my neck and took control. And damn, it felt good. His signature woodsy cologne mixed with something more, heat, sweat, lust, filling the whole room. But I noticed something. He only knew how to kiss. Everything else, awkward and clumsy. Like a rookie. I couldn't help myself. I asked, Is this your first time? The tips of his ears turned red. His lips stayed tightly pressed together, but that stiffness said it all. Bingo. A ridiculous sense of triumph swelled inside me. I smothered a grin and guided him step by step. Theobald Capaldi was a quick learner. Probably embarrassed after being laughed at, he doubled down with intense focus and a lot of aggression. Once he figured things out, it was like a switch flipped. He went at me like a man possessed, to the point that I had to beg for mercy. Only then did he finally carry me to the bathroom to clean up. After the shower, I dug through my discarded clothes on the floor, pulled out a cigarette and lighter, and settled on the massive bay window in his bedroom to smoke. The smoke curled and faded in the quiet room. I caught sight of Theobald's expression, surprised. Then it hit me. But he doesn't smoke. Feeling a little guilty, I said, If it bothers you. He stood next to me, gazing at me intently. His eyes were wide, almost like he was seeing a rare creature. I don't mind, he said. It's just, you don't look the same as you do in the office. Yeah, no kidding. In the office, I'm just another corporate drone. Theobald Capaldi tilted his head. Your tear mole, it's beautiful. Thanks, I replied breezily. A lot of people say that. His face turned green. He didn't finish the sentence, but I could see it in his eyes. A lot of people? Just how many have seen it? I pretended not to notice. Finished the cigarette. Snuffed the butt and tucked it back into my jeans pocket. Pulled on my clothes. I'm leaving. He grabbed my wrist, confused. Leaving? Where to? Gotta walk the dog, I lied. I didn't have a dog. I just didn't want to sleep over at a hookup's place. I had told Theobald Capaldi I wanted to keep work and private life separate, but it seemed like he didn't quite get the message. The next morning, I walked into the office to find a luxurious breakfast spread waiting on my desk. I blinked, confused. He explained, I did some research. They say it's good to replenish your energy afterward. Excuse me? It was bad enough to be sore. Did he really have to rub it in with breakfast? I was about to refuse when he quickly added, I ordered the same thing for the whole office. Don't worry, no one will suspect anything. I wanted to say, there's no need for this cloak and dagger routine. We're two consenting adults. But fine. I chomped my way through the fancy breakfast and dove into another day's work. After that, we hooked up a few more times. Always at his place. Theobald Capaldi progressed at an alarming rate. More stamina for demand, and for longer each time. But no matter how late it got, I always insisted on going home. One night, as I was getting dressed, he wrapped his arms around me from behind, burying his face in my neck, clearly not ready to let go. Why don't you bring your dog next time? He mumbled. I've got room here. Just stay. It's late anyway. What was that supposed to mean? I pushed him away gently. Better not. I really should get back. He sighed. All right, at least let me drive you. I agreed. When we arrived at my building, he suddenly grabbed my wrist again. So, when are we meeting each other's parents? What the hell? His family's that traditional? I swallowed hard. A terrifying thought formed in the back of my mind. Wait a second. Does Theobald Capaldi think we're in a relationship? Wasn't this supposed to be a no strings, no feelings type of thing? He was still waiting for an answer. And all I could think was, shit, this was heading exactly where I didn't want it to go. I struggled to find the words, my throat tight. Mr. Capaldi. He froze. His grip on my wrist loosened instantly. Even without the entanglement, I'd been his secretary for 3 years. I knew when he was upset. I said nothing more. But I hoped he got the message. I went home. Collapsed onto my bed, the back of my hand pressed over my eyes. Let out a long, heavy sigh. This kind of relationship was the worst. Not purely professional, not entirely personal. Every encounter turned awkward. I dragged my hand through my hair, agitated. Should have never gone drinking that night. Should have never lost my damn mind and agreed to go home with him. But now? Too late for regrets. I could already see my high-paying job growing wings and flying off into the distance. Sure, if Theobald Capaldi fired me, I could get some severance. But the humiliation? Not worth it. After weighing my options, I decided I'd resign myself. The next day, 9:30 a.m. Just a regular workday. I handed in my resignation in person. The look on Theobald Capaldi's face was greener than the sleep screen on the office computer. What's the meaning of this? He asked. I kept my tone calm, my style consistent. When rejecting a man, you've got to make it clean. Exactly what it says. I'm resigning. Going home for a nice traditional arranged marriage. Theobald looked stunned. He couldn't wrap his head around how the same man who had been wrapped around him last night could now hand in a resignation like nothing ever happened. He realized he had overestimated whatever was between us. But even if things weren't romantic, couldn't we just go back to how we were? Why the need to quit? His voice came out hoarse. Why? I shrugged, gestured toward the resignation letter. The reason's right there. Theobald shot to his feet. It's because of what I said last night, isn't it? Fine, I take it back. You don't need to quit. Let's just say, nothing happened. I let out a breath in my mind. Mr. Capaldi could be terrifyingly childish at times. I didn't know how to explain to him that I just didn't want to fall into something close. The truth was, Theobald Capaldi might have started to fall for me. And just the thought of that stressed me the hell out. He pressed his lips together and muttered, almost pitifully, "You're the one who kissed me first at the bar." Yeah, I was horny. If it had been another hot guy, I'd have kissed him too. The color drained from his face. Like I just kicked a puppy. The silence in the office was suffocating. Outside, it was a gloomy, gray day. Thick clouds loomed, pressing down on the city like a weight on your chest. I was starting to feel annoyed. Technically, I didn't need his approval to resign. If he signed off, I could leave a little earlier. If he didn't, I'd just serve out my notice. No big deal. I didn't want to argue with him anymore. Gave a polite nod and turned to leave. Theobald Capaldi watched my back, saying nothing. Let him stare. What, was I supposed to melt under the pressure? Please. I rolled my eyes, quietly of course. The weird, heavy air in the office didn't lift for the rest of the day. At clockout, I grabbed my bag and left. To my surprise, Mr. Capaldi, who usually loved to stay behind and work overtime, followed me out. We ended up at the regular employee elevator. No one else dared step inside. It was just the two of us in that cramped space. I couldn't help myself. What do you want? I asked. To be honest, Theobald couldn't really explain it either. He just felt angry, frustrated. And he didn't want to let go of Lance Martindale just yet. He muttered, "The road you normally take home is closed today. I'll drive you." I pulled out my phone and checked. Sure enough. Traffic updates confirmed it. Fine. If he insists, then drive me, Mr. Capaldi. Theobald Capaldi drove like he had a death wish, only the opposite. The car crawled at a painful 20 miles per hour. I couldn't help but laugh. An old man in an electric wheelchair literally passed us by, and waved. Cars zoomed past us just so their drivers could roll down their windows and sincerely curse him out. By the time we reached my place, half the city had pronounced his ancestors dead. But Theobald didn't flinch. Not a blink. Not a twitch. How had I never realized just how thick his skin was? After what felt like a century, we finally reached the curb in front of my apartment. I let out a genuine sigh of relief. Thanks for the ride, Mr. Capaldi. Drive safe. I'll walk you up. No need. I'm walking you. I burst out laughing. Mr. Capaldi, how old are you, exactly? 27. Elementary schooler, I added silently, lips curling without even realizing it. But just as we reached my front door, fate decided to screw me one last time. There stood Ethan Smith, the college kid I used to support. Before I could get a good look, he charged at me like a linebacker and wrapped me in a bear hug. His bare chest slammed against mine, firm and muscular, nearly giving me a concussion from sheer impact. Babe, I missed you so much. No one compares to you. Theobald Capaldi went pale. He yanked me out of Ethan's arms and shoved me behind him protectively, eyes sharp. Who the hell are you? I was still holding my poor nose and couldn't get a word out. Ethan was shirtless. He gave Theobald a once-over, then smirked. Me? I'm the dog he raised. Or you kinda look like me. What are you, a stand-in? A substitute? Babe, you still love me most, right? Love your ass. I rolled my eyes so hard they nearly stuck. Then I felt a chilling stare slice through me. My stomach dropped. Shit. I glanced up, already dreading what I'd see. And there it was. Theobald Capaldi's expression cracked like shattered glass. His hands clenched at his sides, trembling. He looked like he was one breath away from tears. So it's because of him? That's the dog you raised. I felt a headache coming on. Ethan, completely clueless, just fanned the flames. I'm the only dog he's ever raised. You shut up. No one's talking to you. Wow, look at the side piece getting mouthy. I'm not a side piece. And you, dressed like that in broad daylight, who are you trying to seduce? You wouldn't understand. He likes me like this. You're just some crusty old man trying to act relevant, 'cause you got to drop him off once. That did it. Theobald snapped. He tore open the collar of his shirt and shouted, This mark, Lance gave me this. What the fuck? I was just standing there with my teeth out, still trying to figure out when shame became a real thing in my life. This whole circus was loud enough to draw out a neighbor, peeking through the door like it was the best live show they'd seen in years. I lost it. Everyone shut the hell up. Theobald's face was beet red. Still blocking me with his body, he turned his head slightly. You still haven't answered me. Answered what? Get out of here. Ethan jumped right in, fanning himself with pure chaos. You heard him. He told you to get lost. You too. You get lost. Ethan? A few days later, on a plane heading back to my hometown, I turned and looked at the man sitting beside me, pretending to be dead with a face mask on. What are you doing here? I asked. Theobald Capaldi replied, I don't know. I fell asleep and woke up here. I couldn't help it. I laughed, exasperated. Leaning my head on my palm, I gave him a look. I'm going home for a blind date. You tagging along for that too? Wait, that's real? What else would it be? Well, not exactly. Truth was, I was just going home to help harvest corn. A few days ago, my mom messaged me. Said the last batch of corn was finally ripe, asked if I was coming back. I'd have taken leave for this even if I hadn't resigned. Just happened to line up, is all. Theobald took a deep breath, like he was bracing for impact. And then, with the defiant flair of a man throwing himself off a cliff. I don't care. I'm coming. We kissed, we slept together, and the entire Capaldi family knows I'm bringing my fiancée home. Now you're saying you're going back for a blind date? I'm not buying it. Right. I turned away with a cough, trying to smother the smile tugging at my lips. I glanced back at him. His suit was obviously custom-made. The watch on his wrist cost more than my annual salary. Even the barely noticeable cufflinks probably matched my rent. His resume glowed with gold. The kind that could blind someone wearing cheap plastic glasses like mine. And me? I was going home to harvest corn. Honestly, I'd never thought I'd be involved with someone from his world, let alone discussing marriage. But when I really thought about it, if he hadn't been at the bar that night, would I really have kissed just anyone? Maybe not. I'd known my orientation early. Joined the community early. I'd seen too many once sweet promises fall apart. Being gay wasn't something most people accepted easily. So I taught myself not to get too attached. I didn't mind hooking up to scratch an itch. But emotional intimacy? That was where I drew the line. Until someone came crashing through that line. With ridiculous, childlike sincerity. Blunt, fierce, and relentless. I stared a little too long. Theobald's face turned red under the mask, and he turned his head. A flicker of silver caught my eye. My breath hitched. My heart thudded like it had just taken a punch. I reached toward his ear. What's this? Slightly swollen. A brand new piercing. With my missing earring in it. Theobald Capaldi was a traditional guy. I'd been his secretary for 3 years, I knew this much. Rigid. Disciplined. Textbook professional. He'd built his entire career on sharp instincts and clear boundaries. The kind of man who'd never even been late to school, and now. He'd pierced his ear? My fingertips were cold. He flinched the moment they touched his skin. You seriously don't remember? His sudden bark jolted me back. That night at the bar. Caught up in the heat of the moment, I'd taken off one of my earrings and stuffed it in his hand. So here, a token of our love. I was joking. Kind of. Definitely not something I thought he'd take seriously. But clearly he had. His eyes scanned my face. Then darkened. Don't tell me you hand out earrings like that every night. And no, not really. Maybe once or twice. But it's not like anyone ever takes that stuff seriously. Theobald snorted. Well, I took it seriously. And just like that, my heart went soft. All the cold lines I'd rehearsed in my head? Gone. Just gone. I didn't say anything else until we landed. Then came the journey home. A high-speed rail, a local bus, then a rickety three-wheeler, and finally a motorcycle taxi. By the end, Theobald looked half dead. Pale, gagging, clutching the gift bags like they were the only things anchoring him to this world. I raised a brow. Giving up yet? Still time to turn back. He looked ready to faint, but his jaw tightened. This is nothing. All right, I'll give you that. We ended up switching motorcycles 3 more times. Winding up endless mountain roads, we finally arrived. My mom was already standing at the door. "Child, what took you so long?" I looked back at Theobald wobbling behind me like a newborn colt. I sighed. He stumbled up beside me, nearly dropping to his knees in a formal bow. I lunged forward and caught him just in time. "Oh, and who's this?" my mom asked. Theobald suppressed a gag, straightened his back. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Lance Martindale's friend. Just call me Theobald." Oh, come on in then. This kid, bringing friends home and not telling me a thing. He finally planted his backside on a wooden stool that didn't bounce or tilt or jolt. Let out the deepest, most exhausted breath I'd ever heard. And he couldn't stop grinning. Nightfall. He stood at the edge of my bed, holding a pillow and a folded quilt in his arms. "Your mom told me to squeeze in with you tonight." I didn't even look up. Request denied. Go find your own place to sleep. There was some shuffling behind me, blankets, movement, but oddly, the bed didn't dip. That easy? I'd half expected him to sneak in by force. When I turned my head, Theobald Capaldi was crouched awkwardly on the floor, setting up a narrow little sleeping space. He was nearly 6'3", curled into one tight corner, knees bent at impossible angles. Mountain nights got cold. And this type of old wood flooring made it worse, cold seeping right through the bone. After getting tossed around all day from trains to bikes to three-wheelers, and now sleeping like this? No way he'd survive the night without falling sick. I sighed. "Get up here." Without a word, Theobald Capaldi hopped into bed like he'd been waiting for the green light all along. Smooth, shameless, efficient. His arms wrapped around my waist, slowly tightening. Warm breath ghosted against my ear. He let out a sigh, his cool nose brushing along my cheek as he murmured hoarsely, "This is our first time sleeping together." "Right?" I said flatly. "I'd been tricked." "Whatever." I shook my head. "Sleep first." I was tired. The next morning, I dragged Theobald Capaldi out of the blankets, threw some cotton gloves on him, strapped a basket to his back, and kicked him straight into the cornfield. "Go. Husk the corn." My mom's voice called out behind us, anxious and appalled. "He's a guest. How can you make a guest work?" Before I could respond, Theobald cut in, eager and bright. "I'm no guest, Andy. Treat me like your son." "You silly boy." I snorted coldly. Look at him, already trying to worm his way in. But he got to work, head down, hands busy. Meanwhile, I cleaned up, packed 2 buns, a bag of pickled veggies, and a thermos into my arms, and climbed up onto a big stone nearby to sit and watch. The sun rose steadily. Theobald peeled off his jacket, revealing a fitted work tank underneath. Muscles tight, lean, gleaming under the sunlight. I sipped from my thermos, leisurely. Finally got the appeal of rich folks watching farmhands work. It was a nice view. He worked that corn like it owed him money. And I? Didn't say a word. Didn't tell him I'd already hired help and he didn't need to lift a finger. "Come on, time to eat." "Take a break," I called out. He wiped sweat from his brow with a towel and walked over, radiating heat. Still grinning like a fool. "Want to know what I heard out in the field?" he asked. I shoved him away, disgusted by the sweat. "What?" "They said you look like my wife. One of those pretty ones that doesn't need to work." I flushed, cheeks burning. Gritting my teeth, I shot back. "Did they also say you husk corn like a total idiot? And you're still watching like it's your favorite show? Don't flatter yourself." The sun was higher now, blazing and blinding. "Come on, let's go home. No more work this afternoon." He tried to sneakily grab my hand. I ignored him. He started groaning dramatically. I turned to look, and sure enough, well, got yourself a blister? City boys really are delicate. It doesn't hurt at all now. I laughed. In the end, I didn't make him keep working. Back at home, I rummaged around and found some Band-Aids, carefully tending to his hand. Our heads were close, too close. Theobald swallowed hard. He leaned down, clearly aiming for a kiss. "Lance, are you done packing yet?" My mom's voice rang out suddenly, And there she was, standing at the doorway, staring at us both, eyes narrowing with suspicion. Theobald Capaldi straightened up like a soldier caught in inspection. I glanced at him and couldn't help but let out a quiet laugh. "What is it, Mom?" "That Chen family kid snuck out this morning and helped in the field," she said. "I figured you could bring him something to eat, just to say thanks." "Ethan, right?" "Yeah. Didn't he come back from college just a few days ago?" "Right behind you. If you're done, go on and bring it over." "Got it." Theobald looked visibly tense. "Who's that?" he asked. "No one important. You stay here, I'll be back soon." In truth, this was perfect timing. There were things I needed to say to Ethan Smith anyway, things long overdue. Just as I was about to head out, Theobald reached for my arm. His voice came out stiff. "You're not going on a blind date, are you?" I froze for a beat. That was the excuse I'd fed him earlier. Didn't think he'd actually remember. I gave him a chilly side-eye. "Isn't that a little too much concern?" Theobald's lips pressed into a line. He let go. I bit down on a smile, trying not to let it show. Then grabbed the little basket of food my mom had packed and texted Ethan Smith to meet me. There was only one cafe in the whole village, and it barely qualified as one. Ethan was already waiting. As soon as he saw me, his eyes lit up like fire. "Babe," I sighed. "Ethan, I think we're already over." "Don't say that," he protested. "We've known each other for years. And come on, we're great together. You know we are, especially in bed." Not a word about the time he vanished after telling me he'd perform a magic trick. I let out a cold chuckle. If it weren't for that little stunt, I wouldn't have ended up kissing Theobald Capaldi in the first place. Ethan saw me laugh and thought I was amused. He smiled, leaned in. "Right? See, we're perfect together. How about tonight?" "No," I cut him off. My tone dropped. "You'd better stop now. You wouldn't want your thesis advisor's daughter, your current girlfriend, to find out you're messing around with a guy behind her back, would you?" His face turned ghostly pale. I pushed the little bamboo basket across the table. "My mom asked me to bring this. If you know what's good for you, keep quiet. I'll make sure you don't completely lose face in the village." The conversation lasted longer than I thought it would. By the time I stepped out of the cafe, the sun had already dipped toward the horizon. I wandered to an open clearing. My phone suddenly buzzed nonstop. All the texts that hadn't come through earlier, now flooding in at once. From Theobald Capaldi. 2 hours ago. "Are you coming back soon?" 30 minutes ago. "I'm not trying to control you. What you do is your business. Who you see is your choice. You're your own person. I like you, but I don't want to be a burden. No matter who you choose, I'll respect that. 5 minutes ago. I'll just die then." I burst out laughing as I read. Picked up my pace on the way home. "Mom, where's Theobald Capaldi?" My mom was pacing in circles. "Oh, thank God you're back. Your dad insisted on having him try some of his homemade liquor. Poor boy had 2 sips and went completely lightheaded. He was in your room earlier. Now who knows where he ran off to?" "Got it, I'll find him." The village wasn't big, and there weren't many shady people around. I wasn't too worried. Lit the cigarette. Started strolling down the darkening path. Then, as I passed by the cornfield, I heard it. A soft, muffled sniffle. "Theobald." The soft sniffling stopped. Well, that was easy. I strolled in lazily and found him curled up right under the big rock I'd been sitting on earlier that day. His cheeks were flushed from the alcohol, eyes and nose both red from crying. I crouched in front of him with a smile. "What are you crying for?" Theobald rubbed at his face with the back of his hand and turned away. "What do you want?" "Mom said you drank too much and disappeared. She was worried someone might snatch you up off the road, someone so good-looking." He muttered like he was throwing a tantrum. "Good-looking? What good is that?" "Well, I like it," I said as I cupped his face and leaned in to kiss him. "Consider that a reward for getting drunk and not running off somewhere." His eyes went wide, stunned. I didn't rush him. Just waited, unbothered, for the reaction to land. Then, right before my eyes, his face turned red from the tips of his ears down to his collarbone. He yanked me up from my squat like I weighed nothing, practically pouting into the sky. Have you kissed anyone else like that? Nope. Just you. Theobald stared at me for a long beat, then buried his face against my neck and started crying again, soft and whimpery. Did you have a dog? He mumbled. No. A man's dog? He was drunk. Fully and tragically drunk. It took me a second, but I realized he meant Ethan Smith. I rubbed his back with a soft chuckle. Nope. Didn't have anything. He was just an ex-friends with benefits, and I stopped liking him a long time ago. Theobald slurred. Say that again. That thing you said? What thing? That thing about what happens when I cry. I held back my laughter. You better remember it, because if you forget after sobering up, I'm not repeating it. He nodded seriously, like a kid being handed down the meaning of life. So I leaned in, clear and deliberate. I like you. Theobald froze. Then, out of nowhere, shoved his hand in front of my face. My hand hurts. Oh no, how tragic. Can you still use it to unbutton for me? He blinked. Unbutton what? I lowered my eyes. Heard my dad's ginseng wine is pretty effective. Before he could piece together what that meant, I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him deeper into the cornfield. Panicked, he yelped, someone might see. In the middle of the night? No one else is dumb enough to be out here. If you don't want this, leave. I want. Moonlight spilled across the field. Somewhere in the thicket of tall stalks, a corner rustled violently. Dry leaves whispered against each other in the breeze. A passing dog stopped and barked wildly toward that spot. An old man nearby squinted into the darkness. Must be the wind. Meanwhile, Theobald Capaldi was biting me like a man possessed. I'm so pissed, so pissed, so pissed I could die. Don't die, ow. Don't bite that hard. Are you part pitbull? My thighs and lower belly were covered in bite marks. The small of my back, especially the two dimples, looked like they'd been hit with a hammer, red, purple, and swelling. Even putting on pants had me sucking in air from the pain. Seriously, was that ginseng wine too effective? He was half holding me, leaning against the crushed corn stalks behind him. Muffled, almost sheepish, he whispered, Lance. What? Do you love me? No. Go away. Not going. I love you too. If we take my face out of the equation, what do you love about me? Can't take it out. Hypothetically. Not answering. Lance Martindale, you're so mean, he sniffled. I scoffed. You should be grateful you have a face like that. So you do love me because I look like him. I knew it. But I'm hotter, right? I smacked my forehead. I had almost forgotten that part. I looked up at him, stared carefully at every inch of his face. You've got it backwards. He looks like you. And just like that, Theobald Capaldi was back in a good mood. I raised an eyebrow. That was easier than expected. After a few minutes leaning together in silence, my back started to ache. I pushed myself upright. Let's go. Any later and my mom's gonna freak out. K. On the walk home, I walked slowly, and Theobald Capaldi matched every one of my steps. After a while, I said quietly, you know, from where I started to where you are, it took me a long time to get here. He replied without missing a beat. Yeah. You're amazing. I gave a little laugh. But I wasn't always. I hated school growing up. Skipped class. Got into fights. No matter how hard my parents beat me or yelled, I was a mess. At my worst, I was 16, and I almost ran away with a man. Theobald's breath hitched. I caught the change in his face. It was kind of funny. What? I said. Surprised. That guy must have tricked you. So sure. You were 16. Still figuring yourself out. Of course you were vulnerable. I let out a low snort. Well, yeah, I was tricked. But I never made it. My mom showed up with the cops before I could leave. He sucked in a sharp breath. Your mom? She and my dad know everything. Why else would they let you share a room with me? You should have told me sooner. What for? So I could stop calling her ma'am and start calling her ma'am, sounds so distant. We were nearly home now. I spotted the warm yellow light still glowing in the distance, the porch lamp my family always left on. I turned to face him, serious now. "Theobald," I said, "I'm telling you this because I want you to be sure. I'm not that perfect, well-behaved secretary by your side. I've got flaws. Deep ones. And they're not easy to fix." He cut me off. His gaze was steady, burning with conviction. "I know. But why don't you ask me whether I love those flaws of yours?" "Do you?" "I do. Because they're yours. Because you're the one with them. I love you, Lance Martindale. All of you. Every bit." It was corny. But damn, did it hit me right in the heart. At that moment, the front door swung open. My mom stood there, arms crossed. "I knew it was you two out here. Come on in. Time to blow out the lights and go to bed." Theobald and I shared a look, both smiling. He raised his voice and shouted back, "Coming, Mom." Extra, Theobald Capaldi's POV. Getting dragged into a gay bar wasn't planned. I'd known for a long time that my preferences weren't exactly conventional. But falling headfirst for a man in that bar, losing all focus, all thought, that surprised even me. It took me a long time to be sure. To realize that the man dancing like he owned the place, grinding in the center of the crowd, was the same person who had quietly worked as my secretary for 3 whole years. Surprising, but also not. Because Lance Martindale never really looked that innocent. Something in me had always sensed it. That night, I couldn't take my eyes off him. I hadn't even had a drop to drink. But I was drunk just watching him. That slender waist, that low-rise waistband, those dips above his hips. Like the strongest liquor in the world, poured straight down my throat just by looking. And it wasn't just me. Everyone was watching him. And I hated that feeling. Hated how their eyes lingered like he belonged to them. So when he looked up and pointed at me when he chose me, I stood without a second thought. Lance Martindale was mine. That was all I knew. Then we kissed. So, addictive. He gave me a token of affection, a single earring. And just like that, I knew this thing between us. It wasn't the kind of story that ends easily. Not in this lifetime. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.